Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Yes, another Wealth Coffee Chat, Property Management Wednesdays. Try and change that tag in the top right corner. Can't really see that one, can we? Might have to get a different colour. Morning, everyone. Listen, if you are here for the first time, welcome. If you've seen me before, welcome back. Obviously here to talk all things property management this morning, and I can see a few people already logging on live this morning with me. So awesome. So I'll just do a quick round the grounds. Rosie's on. Morning, Rosie. Thanks for joining. Kevin's here as well. Good stuff, Kevin. And good morning to you, Luke, Justin, Bunty. All the comments are coming through. Awesome, guys. Makes my life a little bit easier when there's a bit of participation in the chat, and then I can sort of try to put things together a little bit more. I guess put some information that's more useful to you guys. So morning, Charles. Thanks for jumping on, team. Well, listen, look, if you haven't sort of seen me around before, if you're wondering what's he going to talk about on Wednesday, well, look, we talk all things property management here on a Wednesday morning for Wealth Coffee Chats. As that intro kind of alluded to, right, there's a few podcasts and things floating around within the circle of, the team here within the 6-star team. And if you haven't already noticed or you didn't get the notification this morning, Urban Property Investor dropped a really good podcast this morning called Easy to Buy, Harder to Hold by the great Sam Saggers. So if you haven't seen that notification, maybe if you've got 15, 20 minutes played in double speed, you might get some useful information there, because that's, really works into the life of a property manager, helping our clients hold property for a longer period of time. That might be 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever that looks like for you. And obviously we try to come here on a Wednesday to talk a little bit about that, and perhaps, give some key insights, share some stories that might be useful to you and to implement into your portfolio. So today, something that came up in the last week, is how does a break lease, how does a break lease generally work? Now, of course, state by state, there may be some variances in legislation or how this is interpreted or how this works. I'm going to give you sort of a general rundown on sort of, what that looks like, what you guys might need to know, run through a couple of scenarios. If a tenant wants to break a lease, what happens? What do you need to be aware of? And then what does that look like for you as the owner and or property manager? What do we need to know on the other side? So, let's have a bit of a chat about that this morning. How does a break lease generally work? Of course, throughout, the next 10 or so minutes, just pop any questions in the chat team. But love to know, you guys right now, anyone here experienced the break lease situation in the last 6 or 12 months? You pop that in the chat for me. Good to know if you've gone through that experience. You might have some feedback, some some commentary around how that experience worked out for you. Was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? What worked and what didn't, right? So yeah, if you had a break lease situation, pop that in the chat for me, because it's something that's I suppose come up throughout 2024 anyway, from what I've observed. And that's observing things in different marketplaces, whether it be, what we do in Brisbane, where I am, our Melbourne team, similar scenarios. We saw a lot of that through COVID as well. Tim says, yes, he's experienced that, right? So there you go. I knew there'd be at least one person this morning, Tim, that was with me. And might have gone through this. So we'll talk a little bit about that this morning. Tenancy agreements, what are they, right? So from the top team, a tenancy agreement is obviously a fixed, can be a fixed term agreement, right? Can be periodic too, depending on where you're at and what you're doing. But it's that binding document which obviously explains, some terms and conditions, how much rent per week. It's got the length of that agreement between an owner and the renter, right? Now, there are some prescribed ways specifically on how to end that fixed term, right? But what happens when you might be 6 months into a 12-month lease and someone needs to move out for whatever reason, right? They might be relocating for work. They might have gone through a separation. They might, just don't want to be there anymore, perhaps. I don't know. Sometimes with share houses, you get 2-3 tenants. One wants to move out, moves in with a partner, and all of a sudden the remaining 2 occupants can't afford the rent. So there's a lot of variance of situations that may occur in life that tend to come and affect you and the fixed term lease agreement. So, right, if the tenant wants to break the lease, what generally happens? Now, some of you guys, if you've got property in Queensland, let me know in the chat. But there's been some new information around rental reforms, and at the end of September, there's a slight tweak on how this break lease situation might work. But as of today, a break lease for someone up in Queensland, if a tenant, and this is again very, very similar in other states, your tenant will need to pay rent up until the new tenant is found, the day before the new lease starts, and or up to the end of the fixed term, whichever comes first, right? So, is that 1 week? Is that 2 weeks? I mean, obviously, quicker we relet the property, the better. Then, that can work out for both parties. Now, we sort of say here, hey, the tenant may need to pay reasonable reletting costs. What's a reletting cost? That could generally relate to the office agency fees, if there's a letting fee involved, which the owner, which you guys may generally have to pay as part of that service. That is generally, pushed onto the tenancy, given they are going to break the lease. Now, there's some other reasonable reletting costs might be in relation to advertising, right? We've got to go on realestate.com. You might need a few other things that are going on in that space, right? So that they can be deemed as reasonable costs. Now, as of the end of September in 2024 for Queensland property investors, and I'll have to check this for other investors interstate, but it's just something that's come on last week, obviously, as a bit of a reminder that's coming, right? Reasonable reletting costs are going to be subject to a statutory formula, right, on what reasonable reletting costs are. Now, what does that mean? What is that formula? I might post it somewhere in the group or something like that. But essentially, the earlier the tenant breaks lease, the more they might be up for. For example, if they're breaking their lease, in this example, if they're 50% of the way through the agreement, they've been there for 6 months, they've got 6 months left, and they might be liable for up to a couple of weeks in terms of reasonable reletting costs. There's a bit of a formula that's being put out there. Whether that formula is the correct way to do it or not, I'm not too sure. We'll sort of soon find out. But from what I can see, generally it's sort of working out to be, nothing too crazy for us to worry about, But obviously at the end of the day, they're going to pay rent up until the new tenancy. So, right, if you, the owner, here we go. Tim says paid a few weeks till they found a new tenant, which was a great relief. Yep. Perfect. So that's good. They can cover that. So, in that situation, when the tenant's broken the fixed lease that you originally agreed to, you've still got a situation where you are producing income on a daily basis, which is awesome, right? What happens if you, as the owner, would like to break the lease, right? Well, if there's a fixed lease in place, that's exactly what it is. It's a fixed term agreement, and the tenant has choice to not move if they do not wish to, right? So that could cause a flow-on effect potentially, with where you're at and what you're looking to do, right? You might be liable for some moving costs. You might want to compensate the tenant in some way, shape, or form, which we're going to go through. So let's run through a little scenario. 12-month lease, we got 6 months to run. Tenant says, hey, I need to break my lease. I'm relocating for work. I'm moving interstate, need to get out, right? They're vacating at the end of the month. Today is the 28th, so they're going to go in a few days. And let's assume they've given us notice a few weeks in the past, right? So we've been reletting, we've put the property on the market. They've paid some advertising costs. We've now secured another tenant. New tenant is going to move in on the 7th of September. So essentially what we're saying here is that the new tenant's coming in on the 7th of September. The current tenant would then need to pay rent up to and including the 6th of September, up to the day before the new tenancy starts, right? That should be all well and good. The property's still income generating. Everyone wins in that scenario. So the quicker the property can be leased, obviously, the better. On the flip side, though, let's use the same scenario. 12-month lease, you got 6 months to go. You as an investor say, hey, I'm thinking of selling the property, right? And we say sell strategically, of course, talk to your team, your advisors. But in this scenario where this owner would need to sell, given their situation, there is a fixed term lease in place. So they go ahead, they list the property for sale. They've got a bit of an idea of what they want to achieve in that sale price, given the market conditions. They then go and do some open homes. They receive an offer, and the offer is subject to vacant possession, right? Here is the buyer. They say, hey, I want to buy the home. Everyone is in agreement on price potentially. However, they're saying, this offer is subject to vacant possession. I want the tenant out. I'd like to move in. Can you do it? What do you do? Well, you get a couple options, right? Number one, if the tenant does not wish to move, given they've got 6 months left on their lease, that is exactly what they are allowed and entitled to do, given they've got that fixed term agreement. So option one might be, hey, Mr. Agent, I'm not moving. I've got another 6 months lease, and you can end the fixed term accordingly at the end of that, if that's what you wanted to do. Now, that could mean that that particular offer and that buyer, that deal may not work out, right? Given they want vacant possession. Option two could be same thing. The buyer is still wanting vacant possession. However, the tenancy says, hey, listen, look, I'm open to moving, but potentially you need to compensate me. Now, if that's the scenario, then that's exactly what might happen, right? Now, what is reasonable compensation for a tenant in that scenario? Well, that's going to be up to obviously the tenant, the owner, the agent to negotiate a good outcome and come to some sort of mutual agreement to make sure that everyone is happy, everyone is winning. And what you guys would need to do is kind of assess what it's going to cost you in terms of compensation to the tenant. That could be saying you're going to refund the bond. That could be, hey, I'm going to pay for your cleaning costs. Hey, I'm going to pay for your removalists, right? So this could, all of a sudden it's a few $1,000s you might consider and get an agreement for them to move out early. Now, if that's the scenario, that's cool. You would just need to weigh that up with the offer on the table, right? Sometimes we're just going to pause in those situations and have a little bit of a think about what's actually going on in that scenario. So, within the day team, if there's a fixed term agreement in place, then obviously the tenant absolutely has the option to do that. So just got to think about, you must weigh up those costs and some compensation versus the outcome of what you're actually looking to achieve in that scenario. Now, I've got a couple comments in here, team. So I'm just going to quickly check out Tim and Rebecca's comments. So Tim says, yep, had a limit to it. They could stop paying if they apply to QCAT. Real estate is not found to be trying hard enough to replace a tenant. Yeah, so during a break lease situation, let's say in this scenario, Tim, the tenant is relocating for work, let's say, and they are looking to move, then yes, as the agents, we need to ensure that we are doing our best to mitigate the tenant's loss, right? Maybe that doesn't make sense when I say that out loud, but absolutely, that's what we need to do. How do we mitigate the tenant's loss? We make sure we're doing, really good open homes. We're making sure we're showing prospective tenants through the property. We're processing applications really fast. We're doing everything in our power and our influence to, ensure we get that property reletted, released in a quick time frame to help the tenant. But ultimately, that's that's a good thing for you as the owner as well. Yes, if they wanted to apply a Q cap because they didn't feel the agent was mitigating their loss, they could put a case forward. I guess the hard part about that is like the time frame to get a hearing and all that sort of stuff. In this marketplace, given low vacancy rates, you probably find the property leases a lot quicker than potentially your hearing. So I always find, it's good to keep open communication between all parties, especially in this break lease scenario, given there's a few moving parts. But yeah, very interesting, in that space. So, open communication, explaining to both tenant and owner what's at stake, what we need to do. And Rebecca says, yeah, future topic, can we discuss new proposed changes to ACT tenancy? Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, that is a future topic, Rebecca. I'll get some stuff there. There's a few other things in, something similar in Victoria as well around, when your lease goes onto a periodic lease, right? Fixed to periodic, how long a tenant might be there. I think in New South Wales, if your tenant's there for a certain amount of time, it's a really long time, mind you. But then you struggle to sort of send that notice. So, in Queensland, I suppose they've taken a better approach, let's say. I don't know. We're sort of all working it out together, I suppose, as we go along. And it'd certainly be one to sort of unpack. So I'll make a note on that, Rebecca. Thanks for the topic. I always love some new topics to go and talk about and unpack with you guys. But yeah, look, team, in terms of break lease, obviously, can be a tricky scenario if not managed really well. So, make sure there's open communication, clear expectations and timeframes up front from your property manager. As we say, property managers are there to keep you safe and make you wealthy. And, part of that break lease scenario and how we go about managing that process, certainly, whilst we are there to mitigate the tenant's losses, we're there to, maximize the result for you guys as well. So, listen, that's basically it. How does a break lease generally work? So there's a few things in there. Maybe ran out of time to cover it in a bit more detail, but hopefully there's a bit of an overview there, a bit of a snapshot on what's happening in the world, of break leases. And, there's a few things to keep in mind of, especially in Queensland end of next month, September, almost there, a couple of days. Any questions in the chat, team? Otherwise, that's going to be another Wealth Coffee chat done and dusted for today. I've got my coffee. Hope you have yours as well. Hope you've had a good morning. Hope you've got a good day planned as well, team, throughout the day. So I might leave it there if there's no other questions, team, and we'll look forward to doing this again next Wednesday. Rebecca, I'll go look up some stuff for the ACT for you. I might have a look at that next week. So, team, that's it for me today. Thanks for joining. Thanks for playing full out. Appreciate the participation and commentary in the chat. And don't forget, tomorrow, 8:10, we'll do it all again for Wealth Coffee Chats. I think Jason Whitten will be back. And like I said from the top, go check out Sam's podcast, Urban Property Investor. Really good episode this morning. Go check that out. Played in double speed, 10-15 minutes, and you'll get some time back, team. So that's my little tip of the day. Go check that podcast out. All right, team, that's it for me. You guys have a good Wednesday. Catch you later.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6 Star team here at positivementor.com.au.